Hi, my name is Kyle, and I thought today I'd show you a quick painting of my process and how I do oil paintings, and I think we'll have a lot of fun and maybe you'll learn something along the way. So on the canvas here, I've got a mixture of linseed oil and titanium white paint, and it's about a 40 to 60% mixture. It's very similar to the Bob Ross liquid white or the magic white that Bill Alexander used to use. On my palette here, I've got a whole bunch of different oil paints, and those will be in the description of the video. And I think we'll go ahead and get started doing a quick little painting here. I'm going to go into a little bit of French Ultramarine. This is a little lighter blue here. It makes a really pretty sky color. And I'm just going to go into a little 2-inch brush here, and I'm just going to pull this right into the corners of the bristles. I'm just going to grab my palette knife and grab a little bit of titanium white and bring it out here so I don't dirty up the whole pile. And grab a little bit of titanium white. So we got this kind of purpley blue color, maybe a little bit of phthalo blue. There we go, that looks nice. I'm gonna go right up here to the edge of the canvas and make little X strokes all the way across the canvas here. There we go. Just go all the way across the canvas. If you get a little hair on your canvas, just flick it off at the edge of the brush. So the reason I'm doing this is because I've been painting for several years. I've been painting since I was about 9 or 10. My grandfather actually is the one that taught me and my brother how to paint. We would go over to his house after school. When we were little, my mom would drop us off and we'd go in his little shed out in the backyard and we would do paintings. We would pick out little old paintings out of calendars, and he'd show us how to copy them. And that was a really good way to learn how to paint. And it's kind of what we do here. We don't use like sketches. We just kind of go with the flow and think about it. And my grandfather doesn't paint as much as he used to, and my brother is also a painter. You know, he doesn't paint like he used to either, but I wish he did. Maybe this video will convince him that he should get back into it, because painting makes you happy. Nothing better than coming home in a long day and just grabbing some paint and going at the easel and getting out all your worries and frustrations. And don't worry about these lighter areas. You want to leave those in there, and because we're going to put some clouds up in the sky. I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the canvas and put in a little bit of water, but I'm going to grab a little bit of the Ivory Black and throw that in there, just kind of grade up a bit, maybe a little bit of Van Dyke brown, because reflections in water are always a little bit more dull because they're closer to the ground and they got a lot more under them. Well, I mean, if you think about it, there's space, but you know what I mean. There's more to refract against. So I'm going to throw that in there, maybe add a little bit more of the Ultramarine. There we go. And whenever you're doing water, go straight across. You don't want to do any of these X's, because water is flat, and if you went a different direction, it'll look like your water is trying to escape from the canvas, and you don't want that. We're actually going to fill up the whole canvas right here with water. You can see that these canvases are not the best. I'm seeing the wood come through trying to say hello to us. But maybe we'll just call this modern art when we're done with it. All right. All right. I'm going to clean off the brush. I'm just cleaning it up with a little bit of odorless paint thinner and wiping it off on a paper towel. Set that down. I'm going to grab a fan brush. This is a number 4 fan brush. And I'm going to go into just some straight up titanium white. And I'm just dipping this right into this pile here that I took from earlier. We're going to make some clouds. We're going to make some big clouds. You can see the fan brush is fully loaded on both sides. And we're going to use the corner of the fan brush. We're going to go in circles, just like that. And we're going to keep the fan brush moving, because we're going to do some clouds. And clouds are one of the easiest things to do in oil painting, probably in painting in general. There's two basic things you want to remember when you're doing clouds. Clouds are fluffier at the top and generally more flatter at the bottom. And as long as you keep these circular motions going, you can make clouds. There's one real big one. Grab a little bit more titanium white. And go up here and just throw it in. I'll make a big one. I'm just gonna loop around and meet his friend here. All right, there we go. Maybe there's a bunch of clouds right here. There we go. And really all we're worried about right now when we're making these clouds is the edge here. Don't really care too much what's going on down at the bottom here. And maybe we'll put another small little fella up here. I need more oil. There we go. And maybe just some, if you want some clouds that look far away, you can just kind of make long streaks across the canvas. And now they look much further away. It's a good way to get the illusion of distance in your paintings. There we go. I'm happy with that. Clean off the fan brush. All right, I think that's good. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab that same 2-inch brush as before. That's nice and dry. I'm actually gonna knock off some of this paint thinner. It's nice and dry. And I'm gonna take the corner of this brush and I'm gonna go in those same circular motions and just blend out the bottom of these clouds. Just blend out the bottom here. You might recognize this technique from Bob Ross and Bill Alexander, and several other people nowadays are doing this. It's a very easy way to paint. Like I said before, I've been painting for ever since I was 9 years old, which is a long time. And whether you've done one painting or 100 paintings, inevitably somebody will come up to you and say, I wish I could paint. Anybody can paint. It's super simple, it's super easy. And especially with this method of painting, it's so easy, it's so simple, and it makes you feel good. Just go on the other side of the brush, I don't have to clean it. It's so simple, it's so easy, and it's so fun, and it makes you feel good. Especially, like I said before, you've had a long day. You just come home and paint whatever you feel like. It's your world. If you don't want clouds up here, if you just want a pretty blue sky, just make clouds, or just make a blue sky. If you just want a sky full of clouds, you can do that. I'm not stopping you. I'm just showing you the tools and the methods. I'm gonna fluff up this guy here. There we go. All right, that about does it for these clouds here. Knock off that paint there, throw that down. Let's put some trees back here. I'm gonna grab a 1-inch brush. This is a 1-inch round brush. I'll hold on to it. I'm gonna make some green. I'm gonna show you kind of a cool way to make green. If I wanted to make a nice green that's more in the background, that has a little bit of depth to it, I could start out straight with this Viridian, but that would be the most Viridian hue I could get. I'd be stuck with it. So instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some Alizarin Crimson and this Ultramarine Blue and throw those together. And now I'm going to grab a little bit of cad yellow, and you'll see I've got a real dark. Grab a little bit more ultramarine blue. Needs to go a little bit more to the blue side. And let's throw in some of this lemon yellow here. There we go. That's the green I'm looking for. See, if I would have went straight with that Viridian, I'd have trouble. I'd have a hard time getting to this. I think we'll do a fall scene today. I'm going to leave it kind of marbled. I'm okay with that. These are going to be shadows. So let's keep going here. All right. I'm going to grab that 1-inch brush. Dip it right into the bristles here. I'm just tapping into the bristles. And let's go right here. There we go. This is a 1-inch round brush. And we're gonna put a water line. You gotta make some decisions here. Where's your water line? You're gonna throw that in. We'll put our water line there. So we'll just fill all this up with some nice dark shadows. I normally put my shadows in first, but if that's not the way you want to do it, you can put in your highlights first and then put your shadows in later. But for me, I think it's a lot easier to put my shadows in first. Just keep popping these in there. You could really do this with any brush. You could do this with a 2-inch brush. You can do it with a 1-inch brush. You could even do it with a fan brush, just depending on the kind of trees you want. I want some big bushy trees, so that's the kind of look I'm going for. That's the aesthetic I want. And I'm starting, I'm putting a little bit more extra paint down at the bottom because shadows, the trees are generally more darker at the bottom. Or you could start at the bottom of the tree and then go up to the top. As the oil leaves the paintbrush, it'll just naturally occur that way. Alright, so we got some pretty deep and rich shadows here. Maybe a couple more. There we go. About like that. Good. I'm going to grab just another 1-inch brush. I got a couple here. This is a 3/4 inch brush. Guess I don't have to spend all night cleaning them. Mix up a lighter green for the highlights. Let's save that for later. I'm going to grab some cad yellow, Indian yellow, yellow ochre, just about all the yellows, and maybe a little bit of Viridian, and a little bit of magenta or alizarin crimson to dull it down. Ooh, that's a very saturated green. Pull some of this green here. I want these to be more vibrant colors, and then we'll put some fall colors over top of it. Maybe a little bit of this yellow ochre. There we go. Good. Same as before, just tapping in here. And whenever you're putting paint onto something, if you're having trouble getting it to stick, just dip it into a little bit of paint thinner, or paint thinner, and it'll stick, because thin paint sticks to thicker paint. And really what I'm just trying to get here is just a little bit of variation in the shadows, because shadows are normally not all one color. That's all I'm doing here. Nothing too crazy. And like I was saying before, I was painting when I was little, and one thing that's wild is whenever you start painting, you know, whether it's your first or your 100th, you start to notice things about the world. You start to notice that, like, you know, clouds are shaped like this, but what color goes into a cloud to make that color? And then you'll go home and you'll think, well, let me go see if I can figure that out and work on that. And you'll start to gain a deeper appreciation for the world that, you know, God put us on here to be in, and you really start to enjoy it. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about painting, and one thing that I just really, you know, I really cherish and I really love. Good, now I got some variation in these clouds. We'll clean this brush, and let's make it look like fall. Alright, before we do, actually, I'm going to add a little bit of a reflection here. I'm going to grab this 2-inch brush. It's kind of dirty from before, but that's alright. If you want to make reflections with this technique, it's super easy. You can just grab down where you put your color in and pull. I need a little bit more paint here, so I'm actually going to grab with my palette knife. I'm going to throw in a little bit of paint, just a little bit of Van Dyke brown, that green color as before, with my palette knife, and just give me a little bit of floor here. I'm just pressing and tapping down. There we go. You could even paint this whole painting with a palette knife if that's all you had. There we go. Now we got a way to make reflections. Let's grab that 2-inch brush and just grab wherever you want your water line to be and pull straight down. You want to make sure you get as straight down as possible. Otherwise, it won't look right. Good. And then you just want to go knock off some of this excess paint. We're going to go straight across. And instant reflections. These are the reflections for the shadow here. I'm going to fill this little section in right here. Made a little bit of a accident there, but that's all right. Bob Ross would say we don't make those, but I can say I did. It's my painting. Alrighty, let's make a fall color. I'm gonna grab my palette knife. Then I'm getting increasingly dirty on the handle as we go through this, but it's all right. Clean it off. I just wipe off a palette knife and everything on paper towels. I'm gonna grab some cad yellow and some Alizarin Crimson and this red Oxide. There we go. I'm gonna leave it pretty marbled like that. Same brush as before, since it's got a little bit of paint thinner in it. And we're just gonna tap in here. I'm just gonna grab some straight up cad yellow and just tap. Tap lightly. Oh, that's a lot of paint. That's a lot of paint. We're just putting these leaves on the trees. And maybe some lemon yellow to really break it up. There we go. Go to this side. Really, you just want to use all your yellows to get a fall color. This canvas is, I don't want to say where it's from, but it needs to be stretched. You see where I didn't have it marbled, so those other colors are coming through as we're painting here, or I did have it marbled, so as I'm painting and putting color on here, we're starting to see those other colors, which I think looks quite nice. All right. Especially up at the top here, I'm going to grab a little bit of titanium white, some cad yellow, and a little bit of lemon yellow. I really want to get a nice sharp highlight here. And tap this into the bristles. Alright, just pop this in. Good. Good, good, good. But if you don't want a fall scene, you don't need a fall scene. You can make a lush green, lush evergreens if you want. You know, it could be whatever you want. Grab a little more of this shadow color. I'm popping in a little bit of shadow here. Just like that. Good. If you ever need a little bit of darker shadows, just grab a little bit of Ivory Black. And there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the bottom of each of these and just kind of vary up the shadows. Just to make it look like some of these trees are a little bit further in the background than some of the other ones. I'm going to put a cabin here, that's why I'm not really focusing on it. I bet you guys thought I forgot about it, but nope. I did not. Alright. Don't think that looks too bad. Maybe a little bit more shadow color here. And I'll just add a little bit more highlights right about here. There we go. Good. I'll clean off this brush. I'm going to grab a script liner brush. And we're going to add some tree branches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip this into some paint thinner. I'm going to grab this old tree color I was using before. I'm just going to add a little bit of Van Dyke brown to it. Well, I guess white's going to be in there too. That's all right. A little bit more Van Dyke brown. Whenever you're mixing up your paint color, make sure you fully lift up the oil and press it down. Good, just like that. I'm like I said, grab some paint thinner, and you want to make this look kind of like liquid, kind of like ink. This is kind of a thin, this is a number 4 script liner brush. And what you're going to do once you have that consistency is pull through the oil paint until you have a very sharp tip. Just like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some little trees here. The trees are not straight. If you have a little bit of a shaky hand like I do, it just kind of helps out because you can make your branches real crooked and make it look like they're not done by a painter. And we'll go into the middle of these trees and just throw these in here. Maybe at the tops of some of these. Just throw them in. You hear my dog barking in the background. She's just saying hello to you. That's all right. She probably heard something outside and is protecting the house. All right. Go to the other side here. When you do this painting, you put as many branches as you want. I'm only going to throw a couple in because once you see the technique, that's pretty much all you really need. Throw in a couple little quick guys here. Let's throw in a little reflections for the color leads we have. All right, we'll grab this brush we were just using and using these colors, kind of all the yellows, which throw in some reflections. And just kind of mirror what you just put up here. But you don't need to be exact. Nobody's going to notice if you're not exact. Just get close. That's close enough for me, I guess. Go over here. Grab that darker color. We got some real dark shadows there. Good. Maybe we'll even throw this little branch in there. Like I said, doesn't need to be exact, but I'm going to grab the 2-inch brush from before. Oh, there's my script liner brush just being sloppy. I'm going to grab this 2-inch brush that I was using before. Alright, knock off some paint. And just reflect it down here at the bottom here. Make sure you pull straight down. Pull straight down. That's not 100% straight down, but it'll get you close. And then go across. The more you do this, the more you go across the water, the more these will blend. So just keep that in mind whenever you're adding in your reflections. All right, clean off this brush again. Let's put a little cabin in here. We'll grab the palette knife. And when you're making cabins, figure out where you want it, and then just scrape out a spot. So I think our cabin's going to be about right here. And just grab the paint that you made, all your beautiful work, and just get rid of it. But really, if you went straight at making, like putting in paint, you'd be stuck with it. But this way you're not totally committed to where the cabin is. You could really fix it if you made too much of an error here. All right, and we'll have a little bit of a roof here. Maybe it comes down, not that far, maybe a little bit further down. And he lives like right here. Here we go. All those trees, all that work. Knock off the old excess there. And the other side of the roof. And you kind of want to make sure this is relatively even across here whenever you're putting these in. And we'll just put this down here. And maybe he's got a little part of the cabin here, other side of the roof. All right. All right, let's make up a cabin color. I'm going to take some Van Dyke brown, a little bit of that green color we just had, and a little bit of red oxide, and maybe a little bit of Alizarin Crimson, and maybe a little bit of Pthalo Blue. What the heck? Just a nice and dark color. Really, that's all we want. Real dark, maybe a little bit more Van Dyke brown there. That looks good. My dog is wanting to play, so you can probably hear her back there. There we go. That's pretty good. Let's go up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the palette knife, and what you're going to want to do here is take the oil and get it nice and flat, and get a nice roll of paint just like that on the edge of the palette knife. And we're going to go right here where the wall is. We're going to tap and just pull down. Tap and pull down to make our little walls. And these will be the walls for our cabin. This is actually going to be the shadows for the cabin. Alright. And you can grab on the side here and make a nice sharp edge. Alright, good. Just pull across, pull across. Good. There we go. And I'm going to flip the palette knife upside down. And just so we have a good floor. We're going to put some grass right there, so it's kind of probably unnecessary to do that, but that's all right. All right, and I'm going to put like a little roof here around the cabin, maybe about right here. So let's put a wall here. There we go. Each time I'm just refilling some of this dark color, like that little roll of paint, just like before. And really, I could probably just fill up this whole thing with color. I'm just doing this to better illustrate the look and shape of this cabin here. But in all honesty, it'd probably be easier to do the whole thing. All right, and this little triangle here, you see how I kind of carved it out in the shape that I wanted it already. So really right here is where I want this roof to come down, right there. And it's going to go across just like that. So you don't have to be so set on your ideas. And let's throw this wall right in here. Just like that. You can do this with a brush if you're more comfortable with that. If you're just getting started painting, you might not be totally comfortable just using a palette knife. And if you're not, that's totally fine. Just grab a brush, and you could pretty much just do this with a brush as well. But I like texture on a painting, so I like using a palette knife. Alrighty. I'll fill up these areas right here. Let's put in a roof. I'm going to grab this same old dark color. I'm going to grab some titanium white, a whole bunch of titanium white. I want a nice blue roof. I'm going to grab some French ultramarine, just a little bit. I don't want that much. French ultramarine and some ivory black. Dull it down. Kind of wanting to have a bit of a greenish blue roof. About like that, I guess. Maybe a little bit darker. There we go. Same as before. I just pull at the edge here and pull down, tap and pull down for all the roof. Good, 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 good. If this is your first time painting, I'm glad you're trying this one. This is actually really pretty simple painting because it's not a whole lot of moving pieces. I'm going pretty slow. I hope I am, at least. As far as like what I'm describing. But you can take your time and pause the video and do things over again. And if you don't like a certain thing, scrape it all off, try again. Or get a piece of canvas paper and paint this whole thing on canvas paper. You don't need a old 18 to 24 canvas to paint on. You can do this whole thing on just canvas paper, which is what, you know, when I'm practicing, sometimes I'll just do that. Because that makes, sometimes you don't want to dirty up a whole canvas. Sometimes you just want to get, you know, just a couple ideas down, and you don't have a whole lot of time just to mess around. Alright, like I said, I'm just flipping the palette knife over. If you're ambidextrous like me, you could use your other hand, but I'm holding a palette, so I really couldn't do that. Couldn't show off like that, I guess. Alrighty, good. I'm going to put a little bit on this side right here. My hand, normally I use a piece of wood and I hold my hand still. So that's kind of all over the place right there. And let's put the little roof right here. And grab it right here and pull down. I'm going to leave this little shadow area right here that we put in earlier. You're probably thinking, this looks kind of like a mess, doesn't it? But we're going to pretty it up here in a second. If that ain't a southern-ism, I don't know what is. I'm using just the edge of the palette knife, a little small edge, to throw these bad boys on there. Good. We bring this right on across. All right. You can see how there's different widths and depth to the cabin here. And that's just because I'm planning on going back over and adding in some shadows and highlights. I'm going to take the palette knife and scratch in this roof here, just to really define this edge. There we go. I'm going to knock off some of that paint, scratch in this edge, and that edge, and that edge, just to make it a little bit more defined. Alright, let's work on our roof. Let's grab some titanium white, and let's just make it look like there's a little bit of a highlight on the roof. Once again, pull that color flat, get that nice roll of paint. I'm just going to barely graze the painting. Now, if you're having trouble with this, hold your palette knife by 2 fingers, and you can just barely go across. Now it looks like we have some different highlights, some variation and gradation in color here. I like that. If we look here, there's not really anywhere the light's coming from. I didn't really put a defined direction in here, but you can just kind of see it's leaning toward this side, so maybe I'll put a little bit of a sharper highlight on this side. There we go. And hey, let's do some shadow on the roof as well. Gotta have, if you have light, you need dark. Whenever you do this painting, you can be as detailed or as not detailed as you want to be. I'm going to add some darker shadow. I'm just going to take the palette knife and rub in the paint where the roof is meeting the bottom of the front of the little house we have here. Alright, let's put some boards on this cabin. I'm going to take this blue color, the green we were using for the trees. There we go, maybe a little bit of Van Dyke brown and some red oxide. see what that gets us. Not too bad. Kind of a odd color, if you ask me. And we'll just throw these in. See how this looks like old wood? Same as before, you're just lightly touching. There we go. And the more you go across the cabin, the more to blend in. Put these in here. And this side right here is, I'm going to put it more in shadow right there. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of a darker color, a little bit of Ivory Black. Good. And throw that in there. Maybe I'll extend this out a little bit. Let's put a little bit more defined edge. There we go. And last thing you can do for this little house is take your palette knife and just scratch in some boards. Said that was the last thing, but I lied to you. You just met. You're not gonna lie to you. We'll put a window in. Just take your palette knife and just scratch out the paint. Just like that. Wipe it off. Maybe there's a window right here as well. Big old windows, aren't they? And you can take some cad yellow, just straight up cad yellow. Maybe mix it in with a little bit of lemon yellow. I think I got green in this, so it might not be usable, but that's fine enough. And we'll say somebody's home. We'll say somebody's home today. This canvas, I tell you guys, it is. It's one to pull away from the palette knife. It's not stretched very far, very hard. Let's take some Van Dyke brown. Just straight up Van Dyke brown. And just put in some window boards. When you make this, you can put as many windows or no windows. You can make somebody not at home. You can make it an old abandoned cabin if you want. Doesn't matter to me. Let's put one right across. One straight up and down. Good. That doesn't look too awful. All right, let's keep moving. One thing I'm going to do is, after I clean this edge here, because I'm being picky, I just want to add a little bit of contrast to this right here. Is let's reflect this cabin down the water, and I think that'll be good. I'm not going to do it with the palette knife because I don't want that much paint on in the water there, because it might be a little too hard to reflect with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a flat brush. This is just a number 8 flat. I'm going to take some of this dark color that we had for the background of the cabin. And one thing that might work for you if you take your easel and flip it upside down, but I'm going to do this just kind of eyeballing it. I'm going to do the corners first, and then this kind of goes into the angle. And then back up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to look at this and say, oh, that's not perfect. And if they do, tell them they're not allowed to look at your paintings anymore because they're a little too harsh of a critic. At least that's what I would say to them. or you just make up some sort of science jargon about how refractions in water change the angle of intent of yada yada yada. See, I'm already bored and I already stopped listening to myself. So there you go. Works every time. All right. And let's reflect the roof in. So I'm going to take that lighter color and just eyeball that in there. And eyeball it in right here. Just like that. And there's our window. It doesn't have to be super bright. Remember, reflections are never as vibrant most of the time. That's super, super calm and still water. They're never as vibrant as the water or the natural world. Take our 2-inch brush and we're just going to grab and pull down, just like we did before. Grab, pull straight down. Just like that, and then go across. There we go. Instant reflections. All right, let's put a little bit of land in here. I'm just going to take some straight up Van Dyke brown. And throw in a little bit of land for this house to sit on top of. Maybe it's sitting on like a little thing that's jutting out. And you'll notice I'm painting things that are further away from the water first, then I'm reflecting them. I'm trying to take a little bit of all this yellow color and some titanium white. I make a tan color. And just make a little bit of a muddy looking thing. There we go. And take our 1-inch brush we were using earlier, or 3/4 inch, because that's what I grabbed first. And I'm gonna grab some Viridian, mix it up with some yellow ochre, some Indian yellow, and we'll just have some little bushy things here. Good. And take the 2-inch brush. Grab that dark land mass we just made and reflect it down into the water. Perfect. Straight across. I think I've about got a finished painting there. I think I'll sign this one. Dip your script liner brush into whatever color you like. We got this red-orange color here, so let's use it. And let's put my signature here. And I want to thank you for watching this video with me. Hope it wasn't too long. And you know, my grandfather always says, if you don't see someone smiling, give them one of yours. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and enjoy the painting.